Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, I just want to thank everyone for their preparation for this budget hearing this evening. Tonight, we're joined by Assistant Director of the Department of Public Utilities, John Lee. Thank you for being here. I also want to thank my colleagues in council, the staff, CTV, and any members of the public that have taken time either to come down to City Hall this evening or are streaming this hearing online to learn more about the budgetary process for the Department of Public Utilities. I wish to remind those members of the public who wish to speak this evening to please fill out a speaker slip as soon as possible before the public testimony portion of the hearing this evening. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to review and comment on the proposed 2020 operating budget for the Department of Public Utilities, as well as review the department's key initiatives for the upcoming year. This hearing is available to stream on the CTV website and broadcast on Spectrum Channel 1024, WOW Channel 3, and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. The video will also be posted on the city's YouTube channel following the event. With that, I'd like to now turn it over to Assistant Director John Lee for the presentation.
Good evening, Councilmember Dorans, members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Department of Public Utilities 2020 operating budget. For 2020, our mission continues as it has in the past years, to provide safe and reliable water and wastewater services for the Columbus City residents and suburban communities. We also manage stormwater and mitigate flooding in neighborhoods and provide power to over 14,000 customers. I'd like to kind of go over, just jump right into the numbers and give you a summary of the department in general, high-level summary, and then go into some detail on some of the individual divisions and our initiatives for 2020. As you can see here from the chart, our overall budget is increasing about 6%, and I'll talk about where those increases are. I provided you with some actuals from 17 and 18, just for some perspective, and then the percent change as we compare 2019 to 2020. In 2020, we are seeing some increases in personnel. I'll discuss those, particularly our customer service section. We're adding 10 new positions there. Our debt service is a very large component of our operating budget, and our debt service covers, pays back the capital projects related to our large capital program. I will note that our budget is supported by ratepayer dollars. We don't receive any general fund dollars, and we have over 1,200 employees that serve in our department. So, as mentioned, it's about $670 million, and our rate increases that council recently reviewed and adopted for 2020, that is the primary source of revenue for our department. And as mentioned, the scope of our service is about 1.2 million customers. Our operations and maintenance expenses, that component of our budget is about $385 million. And one component of the 2020 budget is the 27th pay period. And that, for our department, since we have a large personnel staff, over 1,200 employees, that amounts to about $3.1 million. So that is a component of our increases, as you will see. I'll go through each of the 5 divisions, starting with the Director's Office budget. Our Director's Office budget is increasing about 6.2%, and as you can see there in the chart, the majority of expenses are in the personnel and services line. You can see there from the actuals over the years, you might ask, well, you were at 16 million, then 23 million in 18, and now we're increasing to 34 million. What we did in the last few years is we made a transition where we had our customer service center and our permits office. That was actually in the Division of Water and the Division of Sewers. For better customer service, we moved those to the Director's Office budget, so that's why the increase is there. And the Director's Office budget, I'll note, is a shared service, so it's not its own fund. It's supported by the other divisions, as you can see the breakdown there from power, water, sewers and drains, and stormwater. Some highlights on the sections that the Director's Office serves, anywhere from the fiscal operations to HR to our GIS section, and as mentioned, our customer service and permits section. The staffing changes that I mentioned, one area is the addition of 10 additional customer service representatives, with our goal with those additional personnel is to reduce delays on the phones for customers. A lot of customers every day call in. We have a very large customer service center, and we've realized through some analysis, in order to reduce call times for customers, we need some more employees. The other component, as I mentioned, of the director's office budget is that services component. A lot of that is banking contracts that we have, and our bill pay services is a large component, in addition to some of our work order and inventory systems and other software systems as well. Moving on to our water division budget, this is a $202 million budget, as you can see there, broken down. Our operations and maintenance expenses are about $108 million. They're increasing about 3.2% over 2019's budget, whereas our debt service is actually higher. You'll notice 94 going up to $94 million versus 85 in 2019. The reason for that large increase is because of our major upgrades we've had at our water treatment plants. All three of our plants in the last 4 years have been undergoing major upgrades to the cost of about $400 million. So as we do those projects, we have to start paying down that debt service over time. So that's why we're seeing the increase there. A little bit more on the Division of Water. It supports about 450 employees. With the addition of the upgrades to the plants, we realized we need a few more operators on staff and a few more plant maintenance mechanics and an additional water protection specialist out at our watershed facility. But overall, it is a continuation budget, and when you look at water on a day-to-day basis, we have employees and processes, and at our treatment plants, that never stops. It's a 24-hour operation, and our water distribution crews out there fixing lines, fixing breaks in the communities. One area on the purchase services, that is increasing to support our residuals management program. That's a program where whenever we treat water, we have to manage the byproducts, and we're starting to ramp up management of that in 2020 and into the future years. I mentioned the debt service continuing. That's approximately 46% of the budget. And one area in 2020 that we're going to be moving into is more advanced metering infrastructure, where we're going in. We'll probably replace over 300,000 meters over a course of 5 years. 2020 will be the start of that. And what we're doing is we still have some contracted services for those meter readings. So we're going to continue that contract in addition to personnel that we have. And as we move to those meters come online, existing staff will be moved into different areas within a department. For our division of sewers and drains in the next slide, again, our increase is about 6% compared to 2019. You can see there our operations and maintenance expenses are growing about 5.49%, and a debt service growing from $165 million to $175 million. Debt service on the sewer side is about 59% of the total budget. Like water, we have two major plants that treat the wastewater, and we also have I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of things on the slides here. We also have a sewer maintenance operations center where a large portion of our personnel are out there servicing the lines and maintaining lines. We are asking for some additional personnel in 2020, one engineering associate and some additional sewer maintenance workers. We have seen an increase in our supplies and materials. One of those areas is in our chemical costs for polymer, about a $1.2 million increase. And we're also seeing some electricity increases as we've brought our Oars Tunnel online just to do a lot of pumping with all the rain events we've had this year. Stormwater. Our stormwater is a little bit smaller of a division and a little bit smaller budget. For 2020, we're proposing a $41.9 million budget. As you can see there, we've got some personnel increases of 13%, and the other component is services. The services component is really made up of two big areas. One is a reimbursement to our for snow and street sweeping, snow removal and street cleaning. We contract with the Department of Public Service for those services just because we don't have the workforce to do that like they do. And we also, in the Stormwater Division, don't have the technical expertise to do some of the engineering, whereas the Sanitary Division does, as well as they also have the maintenance crews in order to maintain the storm sewers, so we contract and reimburse them for those services. The personnel expenses on the Stormwater Division are increasing a little bit just recently to comply with our MS4 permit. That's a permit that allows us to discharge stormwater to the waters of the United States. And so in order to maintain compliance with that, our efforts and our goals is to increase some personnel to get out for more outreach and communication and coordination with the other departments here in the city to make sure we maintain compliance with that permit. We are seeing some expanding. Our capital program is expanding. We're going to see in the next future years a little bit more on the debt service side, not so much in 2020, but more in the out years, just because we're starting to make more neighborhood projects are coming online, and we're doing more storm sewer assessments, as well as green infrastructure maintenance. As blueprint areas come on board, there's a maintenance component to that, which our Stormwater Division will serve. And the final division that I'll talk about is our Power Division. Our Power Division, as you can see, has a very large line item for materials and supplies. It was going from $58 million to $62 million in 2020. The lion's share of that cost is for our purchased power. We serve over 14,000 customers here in the city, and we purchase wholesale power and then provide that to our customers, and we lock in those rates in the futures market. So it's going up a little bit in 2020, our contracted price. That's as reflected there with a 7% increase. Likewise, our personnel is increasing a little bit as well because we recently added an additional crew, and we're requesting some additional employees, trainee employees, cable line worker trainees to support those crews. And that is my testimony on our budget. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Assistant Director Lee. Just a couple of questions, and I think you hit on a number of these things in your presentation, but I want to ask a couple of questions just to distill the information down for folks, both from a council standpoint and for any members of the public that are watching this hearing. First, given the amount of capital projects to address the consent decrees and maintenance of aging infrastructure in the city, the amount of debt the department has taken on continues to grow. Could you just share with us again how the department plans to continue to budget for this increase moving forward?
Sure. With our planning process, we look out about 6 years in the future, 6 to 10 years, and we look at all of our capital projects, and we are aware of what those projects cost and what the ultimate impact is to debt service. And so we model these, we input project schedules, cost estimates, and look at how things balance out with rate increases, the amount of revenue that's estimating to come in. So our goal really is to balance all these components so we have a manageable level of debt service each year.
Thank you. Blueprint Columbus continues to grow and be implemented. Obviously, the department has spent a fair amount of time in the Clintonville area over the past few years implementing that program. Here in the coming years, it's expected to ramp up in the Hilltop area of Columbus. How does the department see the public outreach efforts regarding this program's continue implementation into next year and into the future, and what are the costs associated with that public outreach?
That's a great question. We are moving into the Hilltop area, and we've been in the Hilltop already. We've had a couple public meetings there. We've had some mailings, I think 3 mailings we've done so far. We've done a lot of field outreach. Probably before we actually get to construction, we'll have a couple more touch points with residents in the area. What we've really focused in on through our experience with Clintonville and Linden is getting people engaged, getting the public engaged with the design component, getting them engaged early at various points, percentage completion points along the design phase, 30%, 60%, so they can see what's going to happen in their neighborhoods. and they really appreciate that. But also, whenever we move into construction, making sure that we're there, we're available, we're there to answer questions, resolve issues. As far as costs for the program, we do have some staff that are committed to the program, some public relations specialists, but we also have a contract that helps us with a vendor to engage the community and provide mailings and door hangers and facilitate some public meetings. Those costs could be around $400-some thousand, I think that contract is. And so, you know, we also have been learning from the Linden area that what the community leaders are saying, that, you know, where do we engage with them? What's the best way? And they, rather than putting things in the mail, they thought it was a better idea to get out into some of the community centers and put things there for them so residents could access them better.
And is that what you mean by when you mentioned earlier about field efforts, about the department going in the field and sort of bringing this information to people? Is that, you know, when you mentioned that, is that sort of the focus of what the department's planning on in the Hilltop area?
Yes, we are. It's been proven to get out there, get in the field, be there through the design phase, let them see what's going to be happening on their streets. They can actually see if they're going to have a rain garden in the front of their house. You know, some people in the area, they might not have something going on, but yes, it's definitely getting out there, engaging them as much as we can, and providing the opportunities for them to provide feedback to us.
And I'm assuming the lessons that the department's learned from the experience in Clintonville and the Linden area, that's being utilized as sort of best practices as far as we're following up with folks as we move into other parts of the city.
It is, and that's, you know, it's having people on staff to just dedicated to this program has been critical. And again, having our vendor there to help support us and bringing engineers out to the on-site and to these public meetings so they can give them a little bit more. And then also enhancing our website so people can see what neighborhoods are coming up, you know, showing them the capital plan, showing where they are in the sequence of things and what the components of the program really are made up of.
Sure, thanks. Just a couple other questions I wanted to ask. In what ways does the department promote the low-income and senior discount program for water and sewer? And if you could speak to the budgetary impact of those programs. So one, you know, what are we doing to promote those programs? And then two, you know, what kind of impact financially does it have on the department to offer those discounts?
Sure. Our discount programs are very important to us and to the residents that qualify for those programs. We offer a variety of discounts. You can get up to 20% off of your commodity charge if you qualify. That's your usage or consumption charge, but also your service charge can be waived if you qualify, and we have discounts for seniors as well. As far as our outreach efforts, one of the primary areas is billing inserts. What we also have applications at various senior centers and recreation centers and adult care centers. One thing that we've done recently is add a lot more information to our customer portal, our web payment portal. So when you go on there, the first thing you see is you know, some guidance about how to pay your bill, what your bill is made up of, but also the discount programs. They're right there, and you can take advantage of those. We also send out renewal applications automatically. So if you are in part of the program and get registered and qualify, we're going to go and send you a renewal application for the next year. The actual cost to provide these discounts for the commodity and the service charge is about $500,000, $550,000 a year.
Okay. Yeah. And when you mentioned that web portal, that's new. Like the city's upgraded our online payment portal this past year. Has that, you know, made that advertising for folks who are paying online easier?
I think it has, and we've also made it easy for people to make. We try and make it as easy as possible for people to make payments. We recently instituted an e-check type of payment process where people can go in there. They don't have to mail in a paper bill anymore. They can go in there and just put in their information and all online, make it easy for customers.
Just like any other online bill payment that folks do for their credit card and their mortgage, all that kind of stuff.
Correct, and we still offer credit card options and direct ACH options if they prefer that.
But again, updating that payment system to bring the department, the 21st century with a lot of other payment systems that folks are commonly used to using, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Last question I have for you this evening, Assistant Director. So one of the things that I know the department heard a lot about over the past year, my office heard a lot about in the past year was, some wait times associated with calling in for either information or issues with bills. The budget here presented this evening has the addition of 10 additional customer service representatives for the director's office. You mentioned that earlier. In your opinion, based upon what you've seen over the last year, your experience with the department, do you think that level of staffing, the additional level of staffing, is sufficient to reduce the wait times that we've seen here recently?
I think we're going to start with there. We're going to start with 10 additional staff, and we think that's the right number. What we did is we actually had more staffing, as I think I had in my presentation. We had more staffing back in 2007 in our call center than we do now, and we have more accounts now and less staffing. And so what we were noticing, we looked at our key performance indicators. We were looking at tracking the data and where we were, and we were really falling short. We were looking at about, a small 8% of our calls were being answered in 30 seconds. Whereas back in 2016, we had like 63% of our calls were being answered in 30 seconds. So that's kind of our target area. What can we answer in 30 seconds? So we believe that by adding these additional staff members, we can get to our goal of answering 70% of our calls in 30 seconds.
That's great. I think one of the things for a department that is so focused on sort of the basic infrastructure of the city, but also to be focused on sort of the customer aspect, to make sure that's a way in which a lot of people interact with the city. It's the most basic thing in the world is paying your water bill.
Absolutely.
Right. So I'm pleased to see the department taking a hard look at making sure that improving the customer experience, both from the web portal side and from a customer service standpoint. So excited to see hopefully that additional staffing helps that situation, and certainly taking a long look to see whether or not that's the right number, and if so, what we need to do in the future to increase that. So I appreciate the department being cognizant of this user experience for folks.
Thank you.
That's the final question I have this evening. This is the portion of the hearing where we would turn to public testimony. However, at this point, we have not received any speaker slips for any members of the public to ask questions of the department for their proposed 2020 budget. So with that, I will move to close the hearing. This point, I want to just thank everyone for taking the time to attend this evening, and for those watching at home to be part of the hearing. Obviously, I want to thank the Department of Public Utilities for sharing the information about their budget here this evening. Obviously, John Lee for the presentation, Director Tracy Davies, and the other members of the senior leadership staff over at Public Utilities, including Ann Aubrey and John Vanek. Want to thank members of my staff, Kevin McCain and Hannah Miller, and from the Legislative Research Office, John Oswalt. Certainly the team at CTV for making all the preparations to stream and produce the hearing tonight to make sure that folks in the public could access this. Certainly appreciated the information you provided tonight, and certainly the department making some key investments in the city, both from an infrastructure standpoint and from a customer service standpoint. I think it's really, I'm pleased to see the department so focused on both. Want to encourage those who are seeking more information about the Department of Public Utilities to visit their website at columbus.gov/utilities, or you can call 614-645-8276. If members of the public are looking for more information about the overall proposed 2020 operating budget for the city, you can find that online at columbus.gov/finance. If members of the public have any questions about the public utilities budget or any other portion of the operating budget moving forward, they are welcome to contact my office at 614-645-8201. They can also email me at radorns, D-O-R-A-N-S, at columbus.gov, and certainly look forward to the public engagement in this budgetary process. So with that, thank you, Assistant Director Lee, and wish everyone a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.